Hi, Greg Dorban here from Ledger Bennett DGA. Today, for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to talk to you about building a demand center and introduce an idea to you that we call the 6 stages of demand center maturity. This is a maturity model that's been developed with our clients in mind, based on taking them from where they are today and how to really help them move to the next level to ultimately drive more revenue and more value for their business through the demand center. Last year at the Serious Decisions Summit, Tony Jarvis from Serious Decisions summed up that most, if not all, B2B organisations will have or actively be on their way to adopting a demand centre in the next 2 to 3 years. From first-hand experience with my clients, I can say that the majority have really evolved the sophistication and scale in which they operate over the past couple of years, and also the number of organisations that have been adopting demand centres or demand centre in a different guise under a different name has really increased again in the past 12, 18 months quite significantly. The interesting thing is, while they all feel that they're going through these challenges alone, most of the ceilings and problems they face are consistent with their peers and are at similar times in terms of their deployment or their maturity and how they're executing activity. And these 6 stages were developed to really systemize what challenges someone faces and how we can move them on to the next stage. Because it's very, very easy for progress to plateau and for people to get stuck in a delivery pattern that they're really not sure, how do I move to the next level? How do I give my business more value than where I am today when I'm having more pressures from the business to do more and potentially not being increased in terms of resources I'm allowed to operate with? And the key thing is, it can be systemized, and there are sequential steps and initiatives that can be deployed that can really help take businesses from where they are and move them that 1 step, 2 step, 3 step forwards to get them closer to where they ultimately want to be performing. So I'm just going to introduce those 6 stages now, and to try and help this visually communicate for you as well, there's a couple of dimensions. The first one's going to be around the effectiveness and the impact it offers to the organisation. And the second one's going to run along the bottom, and this is going to be around the time it typically takes the market to adopt some of these practices. The first stage is all around inception, and this is really about proof of concept. It may be one stakeholder, it may be a group of stakeholders, but what they really have to do at this stage is get the business to buy in and have funding to go and pilot, to go and prototype, to really take this in the business and to make it a reality. The second stage from here is around standardizing, because organizations quickly find if they adopt traditional marketing approaches that they used to adopt, but they do it with more complex technology and maybe more rigor around some of the data points and execution, it typically takes longer and it may not deliver increased ROI or return at all. So having a way of this being standardized is vital in making demand center more sustainable in the value it gives to the business. Stage 3, again, things are quite manual at this stage, and this is all about having deeper integration, so more things can be done manually, can be automated, and can basically work in the background without need for manual input each and every time you want to execute a campaign, you want to launch, you want to trigger someone. So this is how we can get to a point of always on, where the demand center offers a lot more scale than just keep doing more and more and more and more volume of campaigns and activity. Stage 4 is a real critical stage, because up until this point, the demand center is commonly responsible for all execution. It prototypes, it pilots, and it executes what the business provides or wants it to deliver. Stage 4 is when other users, other business teams, and also other regions, countries, stakeholders effectively are allowed to use the infrastructure that's been built up around the demand center. So this is where the scale really increases for the value it offers the business, and the demand center's role goes from one of execution and building infrastructure to around consulting and enabling the business to adopt the best practices, the platforms, the technologies that have been deployed and built up. So it's a change from actual execution and doing to governance, process, and enablement around that. Stage 5 is around scale, and organizations reach a point where the data that they hold, the data that they're trying to purchase, again, maybe traditional methods or approaches to marketing, really aren't giving them increased ROI or the value they need on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So this is where scale is vital to really widen the top of the funnel and drive that attraction at the top level that can scale the pipeline, can scale the opportunities that marketing and the demand centers delivering. And then the final stage is around optimization. How can you start to get more value out of what you're doing? Because you'll probably have quite a robust pipeline at this stage. You'll have good visibility, quite good predictability around it. The challenge is how to get those incremental gains, be it from a top of the funnel where you drive more conversions and incremental reach, or how do you accelerate and grow value throughout the life cycle at the bottom of the funnel and through customer bases. So that's how it works from a high level. And the last thing I want to point out before I go into some of these or all these stages in a bit more detail is at each of these stages, there can be a slight drop or at least a slowdown in value and performance. And this is logical, but for businesses to understand this is really, really key, because if you look at the inception stage, deploying a new technology with new processes, new systems that potentially need integration and training, you're not going to be able to go as quickly as you once did or you're used to in the initial stages. So understanding that's key. And again, if you look at the empowerment and stage 4, if you're bringing in more users, you're going to have to spend time training, troubleshooting, maybe problem fixing in the short term, while they get up to speed in terms of how the platforms, how the systems, how the processes work. So understanding that there will be points where you slow down in value or potentially even drop in the short term is, again, really key to understanding the stages that demand centers go through. Because if you don't manage the stakeholder alignment at these stages, people may lose faith and credibility in where you're actually trying to take this and the value you're going to give the business. So this is, again, we're trying to systemize and put a framework where organizations can understand, okay, I'm at this stage, I have these challenges, I need to put these things in place because they're going to move me to that next level to really help my business drive that value and that growth from the activities that we're executing or responsible for. So, stage 1, inception. The key thing at inception is really to drive stakeholder alignment and manage their expectations. You'll be deploying platforms potentially new, a marketing automation platform, how that links to a CRM platform, some of the housekeeping and opt-in processes that you'll just need to do, and integrating that probably with a website to a greater or lesser extent, and managing the expectations of what you're going to achieve in what timescale is key, because you haven't created a bigger market, you haven't created a new product or service, and you haven't made everyone ready to buy now just because you've deployed a new platform or potentially a new team such as a demand center. So really understanding and communicating effectively, this is a journey and it's going to take time to ultimately get where we all want to get as an organization. It is the fundamental key point, and proof of concept is all around looking for somewhere you can demonstrate quick wins. You can demonstrate that this new philosophy, new approach will work and it will drive ROI, albeit potentially on a limited scale just to get some momentum and buy-in. Stage 2, once you do have that buy-in, is all around how you can standardize things. And if you try and execute campaigns in the way you've always executed them, you will find that it takes longer and it's more sophisticated and more complex to actually get to market. So you need to simplify things in areas that make it easier to execute and quicker to market as a demand center, because you will be responsible for a lot of execution at this stage. So things where you can look for template guides, standardized reporting, email templates, landing templates, form templates, standard headers, footers. So when you get to a point of execution, there is no discussion on debate on which form do I need to use, how's it going to be deployed, what header needs to go on this. It all just systematically is standardized so it can just be executed as efficiently as possible. Stage 3 then becomes, how can we actually automate some of these aspects, because you can't keep putting more resource to execute more and more campaigns that the business will be driving. So this is where you start to really adopt new approaches, start looking for always on campaigns that are triggered, that are automated, and really just work in the background and run, so as you can incrementally build up the activity you do without manually increasing every step every single time you want to do something. So this is really how you systemize that always on approach, and build up the data points that allow you to do that. Stage 4 is around driving greater adoption throughout the business and really removing the demand center from being a point of execution, as I spoke about, to a point of actual consultancy and governance and best practice around the adoption of campaigns, because you're never going to be able to support a global or multinational business through a single demand center where they're the only people allowed to execute. So this is all around training and managing other stakeholders within the system to be able to work within standardized frameworks. So you maintain data integrity, you look for standards, you have closer integration in the system so as the users get the same results and the same output regardless of how they're doing things or where they're doing it from, because it's all going to be adopted in a standard way. So stage 5 is all around scale. This is where you have mass adoption in terms of marketing automation, modern marketing principles, and the challenges faced now are one around driving scale and typically at the top or the inbound stages of the funnel. Businesses at this stage normally have really good visibility around pipeline. They have a lot of campaigns that are always on, that are nurturing all the time in the background across a number of business units and regions. The big challenge they all experience is around how to get more scale and volume in that top of the funnel. So this is where looking at things like adopting programmatic advertising, remarketing, integrating IP technology from an inbound perspective, but also a data capture perspective, so you've got better insight as to who's engaging and what you want to trigger off the back of it. So this is where inbound marketing becomes far, far more critical to really give you that scale, because organizations at stage 5 and stage 6 typically find that the value derived from existing contacts and emails and databases is really, really depreciating. And all they're trying to do is increase by 10-20% at an MQL level where they can provide sales with more opportunities. The challenge is, once you have a good maturity around how the nurtures are working and performing, and you've got good pipeline visibility, to increase that by 20-30% at the bottom is very, very challenging. And this is where you look at things like how can you actually increase conversions at the top by 20-30% and maintain and enhance the conversions throughout, so ultimately you're net 20-30% up at the end. You also start to introduce a lot of the optimization around campaigns that are triggered and always on, that rely on far more comprehensive and challenge and collect data points. Lapsed customers, cross-sell, upsell, sales supporting nurtures, recycle, reconstituted nurtures. So you're far more aligned and integrated with the sales process, and you're really, really trying to squeeze every bit of conversion opportunity all the way through that funnel. Normally, up until this point, you've focused more on pre-MQLs and early buyer journey stages, whereas this is where you really start to look at all of the data points you may use to basically grow customer lifecycle value. I say, and just want to sum up and close by saying the reason this 6-stage model was developed was because we consistently saw the same challenges at similar stages throughout clients' adoption of demand centers. And what we wanted to try and do is help them move from where they were today to a point that provided their business with better value and better return. And there are consistent steps and consistent initiatives that can be taken throughout this that really help them to do that. So if you found this useful, you can come to our website, www.lbdj.com, and you'll be able to download this as a blueprint that you'll be able to understand the details around it, hopefully in a bit more detail than I've spoken to you about today. And you can also tweet us at @LB_DGA if you've got any questions, and we'll see if we can help. Thanks for your time.